Hello, my name's Bev and I'm the author of the book Please Eat, A Mother's Struggle to Free Her Teenage Son from Anorexia, which describes our family's battle with the deadly eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, which my teenage son Ben developed back in 2009 when he was just 15 years old. As I've already said, in March 2011, Ben was in a kind of limbo land. He was treading water, he was stuck, and we were desperately trying to find something that would help to move him on, that would be a watershed. And I wondered at the time whether this particular weekend of the 13th of March 2011 was a watershed moment or not. So this post is called Watershed Weekend. Phew. Because I obviously assumed that this was the watershed moment and this was going to be the thing that helped to move Ben on from limbo land. Anyway, without further ado, I'll get on with it. It's been one of those watershed type weekends when you all end up being forcibly moved on to the next level of recovery. Having been in limbo land for a few weeks, I knew we needed to get over the next hurdle. But like many things with anorexia, it doesn't always happen when or how you planned it. To cut a long story short, we're making changes this week with a view to addressing those nasty niggly problems that are still well and truly embedded in the eating disorder. Basically, if we don't, then they will stay, and Ben will stay in limbo land for as long as we put off working on them. Another thing that's left us in limbo land for a while is that I'm not totally convinced that our CAMS team know what to do next. We've spent the last 4 or 5 sessions not really achieving anything and with no clear focus. So it's time to make a private appointment with our psychiatrist to ascertain where we are, where we go from here, and what we need to do to get there without compromise. By without compromise, I mean far less of this "we'll only do it if Ben finds it helpful" approach, which in retrospect sometimes has the effect of doing what the eating disorder finds helpful, i.e. staying put and keeping a firm hold on the OCD-like problems that are controlling Ben's behaviour and preventing him from moving on. One of these is the obsession with being weighed every week. Yes, we, his parents and the professionals, need to keep a firm eye on his weight at this stage while he is still teetering on the brink of a healthy weight range. But we believe it's only feeding the eating disorder by letting Ben know what his weight is and by weighing him so frequently. So we would like to try drip feeding the concept of blind weighing. And blind weighing means where the young person doesn't get to see the dial on the weighing scales, usually by having their back to the dial. But Ben recoiled at the idea when it was explored in our session on Friday. And because it wasn't thought to be helpful to Ben to take the decision out of his hands and say, "Tough, we're going to blind weigh you anyway," CAMS have decided to put it on hold. However, we are still going ahead with fortnightly weighing. To put his mind at rest, Ben will still have the safety net of knowing that we've promised him that we won't let his weekly average weight gain spiral over and above the recommended 0.5 kilo weekly maximum. And of course we will monitor it the other way too, for our own peace of mind. So far, having talked this calmly and sensibly through with Ben this morning, he seems quite open to the idea. I believe he can see how the obsession with numbers is fueling the obsessive side of the eating disorder. Also, if his weight goes up, it's tended to mean that the CAMS session is completely wasted, as all we do is try to allay his fears that his weight is about to spiral out of control. An example is Friday. When you look at it over the long term, i.e. the past 4 weeks, Ben has actually only gained just over half a kilo over the entire 4 weeks, which is well below the recommended half a kilo a week. When Ben gained half a kilo on Friday, all hell broke loose. Last week he'd been eating more and exercising more, another sticking point, yet he'd gained half a kilo. So the eating disorder was screaming at him that this proved that he needed to eat far less and exercise more. The entire CAM session was spent trying to get into his head the fact that the body doesn't work like this, and you need to look at it over the long term, and so on and so forth. But by then, Ben was in a bit of a state, and the meeting simply went pear-shaped. So blind weighing will enable the precious CAM sessions to be put to more profitable use. It will also mean Ben gets to see what his weight is over the long term, not the short term, and it will hopefully mean he gradually loses the obsession with figures. My dear friends on the Around the Dinner Table forum say that when they introduced blind weighing at this stage of recovery, positive things started to happen very quickly afterwards. So that's the plan. This is just one of the many things that have come out of this brain pulverising weekend, and I will talk more during the week. That's the end of that post, and I really believed that blind weighing was going to be introduced to help Ben lose his obsession with the scales. And of course I'd long ago hidden the weighing scales at home so he couldn't weigh himself at home. Unfortunately, it never happened. He never got blind weighed. He was always weighed and told what the result was, which, as I said, when his weight went up slightly, the whole CAM session would be hijacked as we tried to firefight the anorexia, which was convinced that Ben was about to become a big fat monster. And when he'd lost weight, then the CAM sessions were okay. So it meant that we lost an awful lot of time by firefighting any weight gain, and the weight gain was always punishingly small and minuscule. I believe it would have helped enormously had blind weighing been introduced somehow. I know it's not easy, and it's easier to look back and say, yeah, that should have happened. But when you're actually in the situation, it's not so easy. But anyway, I was convinced that this was a watershed moment. It was actually about a week or so later that the real, genuine watershed moment came. It wasn't blind weighing, but it was something else. And if you're interested in finding out what that was, please keep following my blog that I'm reading here now on YouTube. Thanks very much. You'll find a link below to my blog, and you'll also find a link to my website where you can download free PDFs of my blog, and also a link to Amazon where you can buy a copy of my book.